Welcome to another conversation in regards to the Whitman town election recount. Now, as you know, just recently on June 7th, there was actually a recount, not for one race, but for two. Joining us to talk about what it was like to go through a recount, because just so you know, the selectmen's race, the Whitman Selectman race, was decided by a mere 6 votes initially on election day. Same with the Whitman-Hanson Regional School Committee seat for the Whitman representative. It was decided that day, unofficially, by 6 votes. Here to join us to talk a little bit about what it was like to decide whether they wanted to go through the process and it was like to endure such a process. We have Heather Clough. She is the school committee candidate, and we have Rosemary Connolly. Rosemary is not only a member of the Whitman Finance Committee, but she also was a selectman candidate. Ladies, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
You got it. We'll start with you, Heather. This was your first race, and did you expect the race to be so close? And what was it like to hear that it was a mere 6 votes that separated you and your opponent?
So as we were hearing the results and doing the math, my math was off. So I didn't realize how close it was until a little later. And it was surprising and it's a good thing because it means that parents realize that I'm listening to what they have to say. And the voters believe that I can do what is best for the children.
Now, Rosemary, was this your second race for selectman?
Second race, yeah.
Second one, and you were a lot closer. I mean, the first time you ran, I believe you had told me that it wasn't like you campaigned, you campaigned for like a week the first time and did remarkably well.
Yes, I did. It was a week before, and I'm going to be upfront. I did that because I wanted to bypass some of the dirty politics that I had perceived in the election prior to when I had helped to run 2 candidates. I felt, people knew me. People knew that I was a straightforward, straight shooter, that my name would carry pretty well. And for me personally, running is about talking to people. It's about opening the conversation to the community. It isn't about me or me winning. So I just wanted the conversation to start and continue on. And this year was no different. I believe that I would be ideal. But everybody does, right? So did Dan. But it's about opening that conversation. So this time around, I must have talked to more people and opened up more conversation. And, we got a little closer. I think it was 40. Both of the people I'm running against have been there for many, many, many years. They're well established and they've talked, they've had conversations and had relationships longer than I have. So it takes time, and it takes time for people to get to know you, get to a sense of who you are. And once people do, they usually love me. So I feel like this will keep going.
So I would ask you, what was it like to hear the results that you came within? There was a 6 vote separation between yourself and the opposition. I mean, what's that like?
What's that like? Well, Dan and I had spent most of the day together talking about it, and I had it was low turnout. So low turnout usually is really good for the incumbent. When Dan and Mr. Kowalski are very similarly positioned. So going to, growing from 40 to, more people. Last year it was 40 votes that I was short. This year it was 7 actually, totally when we finished the count, but 6 the night of. I thought that was great. I thought I had like I said, a wonderful time talking to Dan all day, and we got a lot of, things on the table, things that I've heard Whitman citizens talk about, things that I think are important.
Okay.
Um,
But again, so let's stay on topic with as far as the recount itself. So and I want to correct myself with you, Heather, because technically there were how many candidates? You were one of how many candidates in your particular race?
4.
4. So knowing that you were within striking distance, I mean, ultimately you want to win, but knowing that you were that close to having one of the 2 open seats had to have been something that when you hear the results, how soon afterwards when did the conversation start about, it's so close, maybe we should check and make sure that it's not closer, if not, more so in my favor?
Well, within half an hour of the results being posted on Facebook, people were commenting, asking if there would be a recount. And a good friend of mine who is a lawyer said that I was well within my right and suggested that I go ahead and do so, because elections are funny things. They can be a percentage, they can be so close, but we wanted to make sure everything was accurate. And it turns out that we discovered a little flaw in the system, and now they know, looking forward, to pay attention for it.
Okay. So I would ask you, Rosemary, again, somebody who knows the system. What was it like for you? Was it a pretty simple for you to just say, you know what, it's this close, I should just double check to make sure that the system itself didn't kick out ballots, and maybe there are ballots in my favor to possibly overturn this election?
I had some conversations with different people. Heather was one of those people. We were very close. It was within a percentage point where errors could happen. And my concern was that we had new machines. So first year using them, they really, although they've been tested and they're great machines, people can make mistakes. So I wanted to double check and see if we had any flaws, and to see, how this there were only under 1,000 ballots. It was a very small turnout, which I hope is different in the future. It was a nice day, and so enough that it really wouldn't take a lot of time, and we could really look at this and make sure every vote counted. So I did go forward. I called my brother, who's an attorney. Offered him his Rudy Giuliani moment. We're joking about that. He basically said, it's such a small amount. When you go to ask for a recount, you have to say why you want it. Heather, I don't know what Heather wrote, but I know that I just wrote that it was a slim margin and hand recount, which was requested. So with that, you're really not questioning anybody in your clerk's office. You're not questioning anybody. You're just saying, what's going on with the machines? Can you look at it by hand? So you don't really need a lot of monitoring, and you don't really need an attorney for that. Like if you were to question the intent of the people running the election, maybe you might, but not if you need this. So it was simple. We didn't need a lot. We just, you didn't even have to be there for that. But
I will say this you're both right. It's definitely not unheard of if it's within, I've seen recounts, whether it's a 10 vote margin, 15, 20, if it's that close, there is that possibility that you can, with the older machines, I know that there was a thought that you never know how many ballots might get kicked out.
Yeah.
And I believe that there were a handful of ballots that did get kicked out that had to be processed, that you actually on election day had to kind of sit and wait. Like, it wasn't instantaneously, because if I'm correct, the town clerk was on the ballot, as was one of the assistants in the town clerk's office. So they had to find someone who was not biased, somebody who could come in and be able to take care of the process and make sure that it was a pure process. Am I wrong here, Heather?
Oh, no, you're absolutely correct.
No, that's absolutely correct.
Yeah, and like I said, this is a new year, the first time we're using this machines,
Right.
all kinds of things, and such a close margin. It did expose a human error, things that they can watch for in the future. Whereas one of the candidates, one of the voters must have been a newer voter and wrote in my opponent's name, and that didn't register as his vote. Now, I mean, I'm glad we did the recount, because if he's new and, this is his first time voting or her first time voting, you know what, it's great that their vote counts, no matter who it's for, that they went in for a purpose.
So ultimately, you each make the decision. I'm going forward with a recount. So what happens next? Rosemary, talk to me. Talk to me about the process. How was the process explained to you? What did you have to do in order to make this event happen?
So making it happen and then doing it once you've got the paperwork are two different things. So
Okay.
making it happen
walk us through it.
Okay. So I called my brother, of course, because he's free, and this is a volunteer position, and I could not hire I didn't have a $10,000 retainer for a Boston Ashcroft. I'm not with a part. We didn't run with a party. There's no Whitman Moms party. So there's not a lot of money behind us.
Called Rudy.
Your
brother.
So I called my little brother. So Tom Connolly, who did not have his Rudy Giuliani moment.
Okay.
He's waiting for bigger numbers.
Way to go, Tom.
So I called him and he just sent me the laws related, but then John Varley also had me in, talked about it. And it's really interesting because you've got to get somebody to come in and certify all 4 districts. So one person from each district it's going to certify them. So you can get somebody in during the day, have them certify, and then you've got to get signatures. Now we're doing this during a pandemic. At this point, I've only run during pandemics, so I guess I'm starting to get used to it. But getting signatures during a pandemic, that's tough. It's harder than you think. So we went out. Heather and I, we were able to pad some districts, but some districts were harder. I think Heather, I had mine set. I started a little earlier because I think Heather had one district. It was hard to get somebody in to get them to certify it.
It's 10 per precinct. There are 4 precincts.
Yes, and they only give you one paper, so you can't get 20. You can only get I think 12 or 15.
15.
Was it 12 or 15? Yeah, because I had all mine completed and I thought to myself, oh, wow, I should get more of it. I mean, at that point, you've got 1 week to certify, get people to, during the day when they're at work, to certify all these papers during a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like it's designed not for a local election. It's designed for something bigger, like a bigger town where, there might be a party, I guess Dan had the Republican Party help him. We didn't have like I said, we kept true to keeping it nonpartisan, and most of both Heather and my voters were both Democratic, Republican, and Independent. So we didn't go with any party. So we didn't have the backing of something bigger than us.
But we had
6 votes even with that.
Okay, but you had 4 sheets that had up to 12. You can get 12 signatures, and of course, you want to get more just in case some of those do not, they're not registered voters.
Yeah, I did manage.
Or it lapsed, right?
I mean,
or they don't know which precinct they're in.
Yeah, or they don't know their precinct. That's what ended up happening. And I just want to say, Heather, I was so impressed. I mean, you have a disabled child. You're a mom with a disabled child, and you went out and did that. And I hope the expectation isn't that you would be a mother with a disabled child able to do what a whole Republican Party would do. And I hope that that's not what's expected for anybody who runs in women. This has got to be something that our citizens can volunteer openly and don't have to have, national support to do. I mean, I don't think that anybody from Washington really knows what's going on in Whitman, and then they shouldn't be dictating Whitman politics.
Okay.
Whitman people know what's going on.
Let's keep it to the
Yeah,
recount.
no, that
here.
is the topic.
Okay, keep it again. This is your story and how
Yeah.
you had to go through the recount of what it was like. I mean, Heather, what was it like for you to try to get the signatures? And you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know, how do I know what district is which? I mean, and
Well,
you're a first timer,
Yes. And I've learned that most of my friends live in precincts 3 and 4 because as I went through my phone contacts calling people, I'm realizing that the majority of them live within walking distance of each other. And that's where I sort of ran into more difficulty, and Rosemary helped me out because she knows more people than I do, apparently.
So you get so were you both able to get enough signatures for all 4 precincts, or?
We thought so.
Yeah, we thought so.
Okay. So what ended up happening?
I did because I
Did you
started
get-
earlier.
So how many were you able to get, Heather?
I was able to get enough. However, because of the fact that a couple of people didn't know which precincts they lived in, it wasn't enough.
Yeah, they were kicked out.
Yeah, I
Okay.
had them, they were signed on the wrong papers.
Were you able to at least have a few of the precincts or a couple of the precincts
Yes.
recounted?
Yes, 3 and 4.
Okay. So what's it like? All right, so you get your signature, you get them in. What's next? What do you have to do in order to make sure that you're ready for the day when you're all in town hall and you're watching folks as they're pulling every ballot going, okay, this one's for Clough, this one's for Connolly. What did you have to do to get ready for that day, Rosemary?
Because of how we filled out our papers, we weren't questioning the integrity of the electoral system. We were just saying that it was close. So there really wasn't, we didn't need no one needed legal counseling. We just needed one person per station to review. And we didn't even need that because the clerk's office could have seen, they have their own system in place. And they are honest, we have a good clerk's office. So it really, you didn't need anything. You had the option to have if you felt comfortable, but you don't need that. If the question is, can we have a hand ballot because you've got new machines and it's so close? You don't need that. They're going to hand ballot and count that honestly. But we did go in and show up. I wanted to make sure I had a presence. I was there exactly at 12 when they said that I was supposed to be. And Heather was there a little early and Brandon was too. We showed up at 12. We stood behind the counters and, just monitored. And if you saw something that maybe they made a mistake, you can just raise your hand and they double check. Or if sometimes somebody checked off 2 people and you want to double check those to see if maybe they made a mistake. But I think I only questioned once. What I found that what was remarkable was seeing how people voted. They do not vote for party here. You think they might, but you see, it's the relationships you build, and it says so much. It was across the board, and people voted in different ways that you would have thought, oh, those people, they'll be with them. That's not the case when they get in that booth.
Heather, so what was it like for you, Heather? You're getting ready for the big day. What was it like for you to show up at town hall and to kind of witness this and have people with you to just kind of observe and make sure that everything's above board?
It was a little nerve-wracking, especially when I walked in and saw how many other people were there, because my legal counsel said I did not need her, but suggested that I have a couple of observers, which were Rosemary and Brandon. And it was interesting to watch and learn the whole process. And anything that can help to bring community confidence in an election is a great thing.
What was the one thing you feel that you learned from this process to this point? Again, let's not spill the beans as to what was the outcome or how you felt about the outcome, but getting to this point in the process, what did you learn to that point?
Don't run in a global pandemic. No, seriously, I learned how important it is to listen to the voters' voices and to listen to what they have to say, because that is what makes all of the difference. You can post on Facebook 1,000 times, you can call people, but asking them their concerns is what really does make a difference.
And so ultimately, what happened with your particular recount? Was there any change, any reflection? Did you gain votes, or did it stay the same?
So I actually lost 1 and Fred gained 2. So the results stayed the same. The numbers changed slightly.
Are you glad that you embarked on this recount?
Yes, because like I said, it gave me a lot of insight into the process and understanding better of how our small town democracy works.
So, Rosemary, same question for you. Up to the point of where you're at the recount and it's taking place, what had you learned up to that point?
So while it's taking place, I was in a room with many of my, local citizens and part of a democratic process that ensured that we have accountable elections. And that was powerful. And that we all, and even if, it's a party thing or not, they all came in. And at the end, I think was the most wonderful. I thanked everyone, and Dan and I thanked everyone. And I got a chance to walk up to all the volunteers, both mine and Dan's, and a few of them. There was one man that stood out, and he said something really beautiful. He said, "Thank you for giving us a choice," and that's really what it's about, right? Hearing choice, and what we should take from every election is the voices behind each vote. I'm coming closer and closer every year, because people feel like I'm listening, I'm hearing their voice. Well, our current elected officials can hear them too. It's not about us, we're servants, right? And so it's just somebody looking for a new waitress or looking for a new waiter. It's about serving the community, and it goes back to that. So what I took from that is we have to listen harder. We have to hear people, and we have to not make it about ourselves. In the end, I think the biggest, when I was running, if I were to bring that, the biggest thing would be people saying that we did not implement the town survey, that it's just been ignored. That's been
again.
hard for
Remember, we're here to talk about the recount. We're here to talk about
the recount only.
Yeah, don't stray off course, Rosemary. Right. That's what I like to do. We're talking about the recount. But here's the thing is when you decide to run next spring, you'll be back on to talk about running for office, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And hopefully not just me, hopefully other people, hopefully lots of people with lots of ideas and lots of choices. That's what I'm hoping. Whatever my run does, it's not about winning, it's about talking,
and listening.
That's the win.
And listening, right?
And absolutely. Talking about what you've heard and what you believe could help.
So let's talk about the results in your race for folks who may or may not know what had taken place. How did it change one way or the other when the recount was all said and done for your race?
Mine?
Yes.
Like I said, there was there was one person that had written in Dan's name, and but didn't put the bullet for him. He put the bullet for the write-in, and that person, probably hasn't voted before, and that. So if you'd ask me, oh, would you go back and do this again? I might actually. That I thought about that night, that if this is this person's first time voting and he or she went out, and that I was able to make sure that they were heard, that's good.
And does that change it? You had mentioned earlier that you felt that there was, because there was such a low voter turnout, that that it would have favored the incumbent. Do you feel that?
That's clear.
Yeah, and do you feel that maybe you have made an impact with some voters in town in order for you to come oh so close to being elected to that board?
Twice coming in. So I'm from the area. So, and a lot of the people that are voting for me, I know them. They're from the area, and there are different demographics. There are different political backgrounds. So this isn't about any sort of cultural change. This is about an awakening of, hold on, we're not being heard, and so hear people, listen, don't get out beyond just the small group you're in, talk to them and represent them. That's it. And it doesn't matter who it is. That's what we need to be doing. So it isn't. So I think it was said, oh, I have a younger vote. Well, we can look at those numbers. We can check those out and find out, are these regular people who vote? Are these younger? Those numbers will show, in the clerk's office. But I mean, Heather is also from Whitman. Heather is also from a politically diverse family. Sure. So it's the same story. We're not strangers here. But we're just not people who would have in the past regularly jumped up and went into politics. We just are, I guess, moms that said, no, this isn't serving our families,
Just so you know, we just got a couple of minutes left in our conversation here. Last thing that I'll mention, so we know that there's a new development that there is. We did have a member of the school committee for a Whitman seat turn in a resignation, deciding that he could not, he was not going to finish his term out. Give your, if you will, quickly, give your thoughts on what's going to happen with that particular seat as the process, how it plays out, Heather.
All right. So my first thought was, why couldn't he have done this 2 months ago? But it's going to be interesting having to submit a resume and actually have an interview. It's more like a job, which is different since this is a volunteer position. And I would hope that the board members would take into account the fact that I did come so close with voters as well.
Okay. Rosemary, would you like to comment on it quickly?
I would. First, Dan, our thoughts and prayers, Mr. Connolly, are with you. As a community, we're from Whitman first. This election stuff is nothing. If you need anything, we care, and let us know. It's hard. I took care of my father who had a stroke. It's hard, and we understand, and we thank you for your service on our school committee. Secondly, I would hope that I know. I mean, Heather has a resume, and anybody who's going to apply is going to have a resume. But what I'm hoping is looked at is, this is a volunteer position. That resume isn't the key to it. The key to it is, are you going to spend your own personal time, energy for free, and have the passion and the drive? Because you can't see that on a resume. And are you going to reach out and will you have the database of listening to these citizens, like the person who went out and did the work, that said, listen, I'm going to go out and get those get signatures for each district and go out and run for me, spend the money, make the flyers, walk around to every single house, have those conversations. And yep. I feel like, that has to be considered in the process. That is difficult. And like I said, Heather, I'm going to say this too. You have, Heather, and I don't mean to, you've been open about it. I think Heather has a severely autistic child, and she did that. And that that says something. Thank you so much for putting in the time, energy, and that's time away from your family when you're doing that. That's, you're really investing and making the entire community your family when you do this. So thank you.
Ladies, thank you for joining me to discuss what it was like to undergo a recount, coming very close to being victorious and checking that information. Again, thank you for at least sitting down and joining me to talk about this. And hopefully we'll have more conversations somewhere down the road.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, Kevin.
And we want to thank you for tuning into this episode of Municipal Focus. Until next time, have a good day.